was October 11th, 2018, and I noticed that I was more tired than usual. I had 4 classes in a row, and I was on class 3, and usually by then I was pretty exhausted. But I was sitting down in class, I kept nodding off, I kept blacking out, I kept losing time. So I made the executive decision to go home. So 3 weeks later, I was still really sick. I thought I had a stomach flu or some sort of flu. I don't normally get the flu, so I wasn't really sure that it was or not, or like if this is what a flu felt like. But I know they don't usually last for 3 weeks. I had excessive diarrhea. It was the wrong color. It was bright green, which is a little bit concerning. My stomach kept cramping. I could only lay in the fetal position. I couldn't sit. I couldn't stand. I pretty much was a vegetable. I couldn't eat. It was really hard to stay hydrated because I was in the bathroom all the time. I was suffering. Somehow, I made it to a doctor, and she did a couple tests, and she's like, well, I think it's just the flu. You'll be fine. If you're not better in a week, I want you to come back. 2 days later, I'm like, nope, this is not a flu. I know this is not a flu. Every alarm in my body was screaming, not a flu. So I went and saw another doctor, and another doctor, and another doctor, and another doctor. And honestly, I can't tell you how many doctors I saw or how many tests they did. We did stool samples. We did so much blood work. I became anemic. Because I was so bloated, they did a bunch of ultrasounds on my gallbladder to make sure that it was working. That was fun. I did a colonoscopy, I did an upper endoscopy, and nobody had any answers. I was keeping a food journal with three very specific columns. What I ate, if I was in pain, and how many times I went to the bathroom, the color. I was in so much pain. Nobody had any answers for me, and I was spiraling into a deep, frustrated depression. I had to drop out of school and take a medical leave because I couldn't attend my classes. My school is about 30 to 45 minutes away. I couldn't drive. I couldn't remember any of the trips that I took in the car, which is scary. I had to quit my job because I didn't have the stamina. I couldn't keep up. I was only able to eat potatoes and water. And Gatorade. That was my diet. I couldn't keep up. I kept getting faint. I was having heartburn and major GERD issues. I was taking so many medications to try and get me to eat, to be able to stand, to be able to do anything. I was taking antacids, I was taking anti-cramping medication, I was taking anti-nauseas, I was anti-anxiety and depression. They thought I was freaking out. So all of my problems were not necessarily digestive, that they were mental. They thought I had a bad gallbladder. They thought I had dysentery. They thought I had polyps in my large intestine, which they tested for cancer, so that was fun. They were benign, so they were non-cancerous polyps, which is good. They tested me for so many different diseases. They tested my thyroid, they tested my kidneys, they tested me for ulcers. So the last gastroenterologist that I saw, he said, this is the last chance. I don't know what else to do with you. If we don't find anything in this final test, I'm gonna have to refer you to the big leagues because I don't know what's wrong with you. So he suggested taking a capsule test. What a capsule test is well, it's pretty simple actually. You go through a cleanse like you would for a colonoscopy. You drink a bunch of things and then you run to the bathroom more than you were already running to the bathroom. Totally fun. And then the next day you go in, you take an anti-gas medication, which is also fun, really burpy, great times. And then you swallow a large pill with a small camera in it. And then you get to wear this like shoulder bag, and inside the shoulder bag is all the camera equipment that takes the information that the pill capsule is taking and sends it to that. You return it the next day, they analyze the film, and hopefully they find something. So 8 months later, after going through all of this and falling into one of the deepest depressions I've ever been in, I get a call from the doctor and he says, "I know what's wrong with you." And then he goes, "You need to go gluten-free." So inside my small intestines, which were apparently a hot mess, the villi in my intestines, they're the little fingers that help absorb nutrients and push food along and stuff. They, instead of looking like this, looked like this. They had completely atrophied and there was large patches of it. And that is a sure sign of celiac disease. It was kind of a shock to hear something that I had been tested for multiple times was the answer. So what is celiac disease? Because some people know of it, some people don't, or some people just don't know specifics about it because they've maybe heard the name, but they don't really know anyone who has it, or they haven't really heard about it. So only about 1% of the population actually has celiac disease. Celiac disease is actually an autoimmune disorder. It means that my body is stupid and it thinks the protein called gluten, which is found in wheat, rye, barley, malt, and a couple of other things, but specifically wheat, rye, and barley. My body thinks that it is something bad, and it sends out an immune defense and starts attacking my small intestines. This causes extreme pain, bloating, cramping, excessive diarrhea. It can cause vomiting. It causes short attention span. It causes memory fog. And the celiac disease, when it is untreated, can wreak havoc on your entire body. Because the villi that help absorb nutrients are extremely damaged, there is an extreme chance of malabsorption of nutrients, which I was definitely feeling. It can cause osteoporosis, it can cause heart disease, infertility, it can cause all types of colon cancers, and it can lead to other autoimmune diseases. The problem with celiac disease is that it is extremely difficult to diagnose. You pretty much have to rule out everything or take a bunch of blood tests, or both in my case. Unfortunately, I had been tested, I think, 3 times for celiac disease, and all 3 of those results came back negative. It happens. A lot of people actually end up failing their blood tests. And so they end up just having to try a gluten-free diet, which worked wonders on me. It's been a year since I went gluten-free. It's almost been a year since I went gluten-free, and I feel so much better. I have so much more energy. My head is clearer. I don't feel sick and lethargic all the time. My body doesn't cramp anymore. I can eat. I'm not running to the bathroom every 5 minutes. A lot of people wonder, well, what does going gluten-free mean? And it means a lot of things. So the thing about the gluten protein is that you can't cook it out. If you have something that is gluten-free and it touches something that is gluten, it is contaminated. You can't get rid of it. You can wash it off if it's something you can wash, but unlike bacteria, you can't cook it out. It doesn't cook out. It's a protein. It bonds to things. If you go gluten-free for celiac disease or gluten intolerances, you have to make sure that you keep a clean space. So I live in a family that is not gluten-free. Just me. I have my own oven. I have my own toaster. I have all of my own cooking implements so that I lessen the risk of becoming cross-contaminated. I have my own drawer in the refrigerator. I have my own drawer in the freezer, all of which are completely separate from everything that is gluten. I buy all of my own foods that are gluten-free, and anything that might touch a dirty surface gets scrubbed or scrapped. What exactly is a gluten-free diet? Well, first of all, it's eating things that have no wheat, rye, barley, but there's also tons of things with hidden gluten in it. Sauces, dressings, pickles, certain types of vinegars have gluten in it. So you have to be very, very careful about what you eat. Unfortunately, with gluten, it doesn't matter how much you eat. Any little bit of gluten, just a little tap, is like eating a whole loaf of bread. It is murder. And the symptoms come within 5 to 30 minutes after eating. So they either come on very quickly or they might take a while before you start to feel a little bit off, which is always extremely unpleasant. Gluten is everywhere. I'm not able to go to a lot of restaurants just because they have to scrub things so I can eat off of them, and there's a high chance of cross-contamination. It's just something that happens. Even places that try to be careful, I can't go to bakeries anymore. While inhaling flour and any sort of gluten is completely different than eating it, if you are in a place where there is flour in the air, the chances are much, much higher of you actually ingesting it, especially if you breathe through your mouth. That is all I have right now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to learn something, whether it's if you've newly been diagnosed, if you know somebody who has celiac disease, or you're just curious to know what it is. Again, thank you so much for watching, and bye!